Now, so in yesterday's session, we understood very well about, what is the importance of service registry and service discovery, and what is the concept of service registry and service discovery as part of yesterday session. So, what is the main important point with respect to service register? Here it is. What is the main agenda of the service registry? Maintaining all microservices details in a centralized place or in a common place is all about a concept of service registry, right? We taken an example of students versus admin. So how admin is maintaining all the information so that in future, if you want any information related to any student, if you are reaching to the admin team, they will provide all the details, right? Because why admin was able to provide? Because admin was maintaining all your details. In case if your admin is also not maintaining, is it possible to identify details very easily? No, right? So that's what the same kind of problem and solution being implemented as part of the service registry and service discovery concept. Okay. So as part of that, so in service registry, so whenever we added, we are going to add service registry into our microservices architecture project. So what is going to happen? What we have to do is we have to make sure a individual service registry application is created with a dependency called as which dependency? Service registry application we created by using a dependency. What dependency it is? Eureka server, right? Eureka server. So Eureka is server or this module or this dependency, this starter, whatever it is. So this Eureka server is a component provided by which company? Or Netflix. Okay. So you just remember that point. So it's okay. So this is all provided by the Netflix company and these are all maintained by the Spring framework as a open source projects. Okay. So once we created a service registry application, once we added as an annotation, enable Eureka server, and whenever you started Eureka server or whenever you started your service registry application, okay. So what it will try to do is in the back end, it will try to identify any clients available or not. Okay, like that. And after that, what we have to do is today we are going to focus on how we are making our microservices as a Eureka clients. Now server, this is all what generally as part of service register is calling as a Eureka server, nothing but server. Now these are all microservices. We can call it as a clients, Eureka clients. So microservice itself becoming as a Eureka client or discoverable client, right? So these are all should be discoverable. So we are going to make configuration in each and every microservice level so that whenever we started our microservice, what will happen? The service will go to the service registry and it will provide all the details related to the microservice. What kind of details? The service ID, the host name, the port number, context path, IP address of the system from where that request is coming. Okay, I'm sorry. In which IP address this microservice is deployed. So that IP addresses, all the information is provided to the service registry application. So that like that, whenever we started all our microservices, each and every microservice with respect to each and every instance also. So that means what is the meaning of each and every instance? Here, order service, we are planning to deploy on how many instances? 2 instances. So then in service registry, how many details you will see related to order service? 2 details we will see. One is related to one port number, second one related to second new port number. If you added one more instance, if you started one more instance, again, you will see third instance details also here. So like that, you are centralizing all the services information. Now, these are all called as what? Service IDs, right? We discussed a point. Microservice names are called as, name or service ID, both are same. So just consider as a service ID. So these IDs all now, I told you earlier one point, when you are working with microservices architecture, we have to make sure every microservice is having a unique service ID. Can I use user-service 2 times for the 2 microservices applications? No, right? So because we have to make sure uniqueness, I told you one point. Now guess why it is. If you maintain one more project with same service ID like order service, what will happen? Already with that name, an information is available in the service registry or not, and it is a unique identifier or not. So then how will you maintain the duplicate values? If you are maintaining the duplicate values, then what is the problem? Ambiguity is the problem. So next time when I ask, can you give me order service details? But here, this time, order service is dealing with two microservices applications. Then which information it will give? Which project information it will provide? So that's why you have to make sure individual microservice IDs as part of all microservices level. Okay, so this is all we created yesterday. Yeah, service register application. See, it is started on which port number? 8080, because we are not given any port number. But if you see here internally, for Eureka server point of view, they are using one URL called as internally with port number, fixed port number 8761 followed by the /Eureka. So we need this URL, okay, to provide inside the client level. I'll tell you where we have to provide. So it's a fixed port always. 8761 is a fixed port. They created or they reserved for the Eureka instance in Spring Cloud Eureka server module level. Okay. But actual port number what we given, we are not given anything. That's why it is taking 8080 and we are not given any context path also. If you want, you can give a different context path. Okay, so see here, without any errors, your application is started. So however, we discussed yesterday, there we are added two properties yesterday. I mean, we did not explain this. So simple, these two properties is, first one is representing stopping self-registration as a client again. So that means generally what is happening, the service registry application is trying to register itself as a client. I am the server application, and whenever I started my application, myself again, I am trying to register as a client with myself only. So that is what it is trying to do. That's why if you don't have this one, so if you see here, I'll stop. I mean, I disabled it. Now you are seeing all these kind of exceptional messages here. It is. I'll do one thing. I'll start freshly. Same thing here also. Okay, it is trying to do discovering itself as a client. It is trying to share its details itself as a client point of view. So that's why we have to add this property to avoid that runtime errors or exceptions. This is also same thing. Okay, not other I cannot use. So this is also, it is trying to fetch its own information as part of when you started your service registry application, it is trying to fetch the information of its own. See, you will have a lot of predefined properties. How do you remember all these properties? Tell me. Is it possible to remember all the properties? Even in gateway also we configured a couple of predefined properties. Do you know the actual syntaxes? No, it's not difficult. I mean, it's very difficult, right? It's very difficult. One or two we can remember somehow, but every component level, every functionality level, we used to get a number of predefined properties. Then how can we remember? There is no way, right? So then how can you recollect or how can you use those things when you are practicing or when you are working as part of any application? From where you will identify? Remembering is not possible. Everyone is accepted. Even I cannot also remember, even I have an experience. But then how can we identify all these properties in case when you needed it, you remembered half property, half you forgot it, but you want everything. Then what you will do generally? Maybe you can go for the Google, right? So in Google also there are official documents available with respect to what? Spring Cloud, Eureka server. If you want to know more about Yeah, sorry. So here you can see this kind of official documentations. Okay, official means provided by the Spring team itself. It's not from anyone like Naresh IT or someone else. Okay. So it's not like that. Official documentation from the official Spring team. So just go here, then they will explain. See, this is also one way of learning, guys. When you want to know the things 100% accuracy with 100% okay, things, whatever the subject you want to know, then you can refer this kind of documents. These things will give you so much knowledge, in-depth knowledge, as well as 100% accurate knowledge, 100% latest knowledge, or whatever they modified in the recent versions, they will always, okay, updated in these documents. So please try to make a habit of going through the official documents or any framework wherever you will go. Okay, so see here how clearly they are explaining what is service discovery, service client, what you have to do. They're given all the examples also. So please go through this kind of documents, then you will remember, or you don't need to remember a couple of things on your own. So when you want really things, after some point of time, you can refer this kind of official documents, then you will get the all the solutions or all the properties, what you have to be used as part of your implementation level, which property is required and everything. So registering with Eureka, what you have to do. So those are all things they're explaining with respect to here. So even we are also, so that's what, see here, right now I told you one point, we need this URL, right? So if you see here, that is what they are also saying. Same thing, this property now we are going to use as part of our client's level. So that's what, so you just go through this kind of official documents, then you will get a lot of, okay, accurate knowledge as part of everything. So what you have to do, they given the properties. If you use what property, what will happen? They will explain everything in this. Document. So, okay, so just go through these official documents always as much as possible. Enable Eureka server. This is what we did. How to run. So we are doing all these things yesterday onwards. So this is what the properties we use it right now. Server.port 8761. Even I told you we have to give reserved port number 8761. So that these are all details only I am providing as part of the training. So that's why go through the official documents always. It will give you the accurate knowledge always. Okay, fine. So just go through the official documents. No need to buy heart always for everything. Okay, fine. So that is what here also stopping the getting its own details again as a client. That is what we are trying to do here. So now let me start my application one more time. See, they are applying security in the Eureka server. In case in future, if you want to apply something, should not be allowed. Okay, some services should not be allowed to register with the service registry. Couple of microservices. I assume I know service ID or URL of the service registry. One microservice level I given that URL and it is trying to reach to the service register and share its details. But I would like to stop couple of microservices registration with respect to security point of view. That is also they are trying to say something like security point of view. You can add security in the Eureka server, all this thing. So this is what we discussed or not? In security module, are we discussed HTTP security, what we will configure here? CSRF, CORS, request matcher, permit all, any other request, authenticated, right? So that is what. So go through the official documents as much as possible. They will update always with latest things, what is being changed. Okay, if you see here now, we don't get any we don't get any compiled, runtime errors or exceptions once we started our microservice now, service register. Okay, fine. Now I'm done with, we are ready with the service registry. Then what about the service clients, discoverable clients? What about the Eureka clients? What about the microservices? Automatically, for example, if you see here, to see what are the instances registered with the Eureka server, what are the clients registered with the Eureka server. So Eureka server provided a user interface portal, right? So yesterday I showed you what is the URL for that. You just need to use with respect to the port number. That's all. So here, if you see here, this is what your Eureka server or service registry information. So it is just started 2 minutes back. And any instances currently registered with Eureka? No instances, right? So if you see here, they given just information, how much memory it is occupying in the system level 45 MB on IP address, system status up. Up means your service register is up and running, like it is started without any exceptions like that. So this is IP address where it is deployed in your system. This is my computer IP address now. That is what I told you, it will collect. Okay. Now, next point here it is, for example, right now, I'm starting user service microservice. So now my point here it is, user microservice I'm getting started. Is it automatically going to register with the service registry? By default? No, right? By default, no. So then what we have to do, I told you yesterday, we have to do some small configuration steps or we have to make some small changes. Then only your microservices will start registration with the service registry application or Eureka server application. So if you see here, am I started user microservice or not? Yes. If you go and verify Eureka server now, refresh it, any instances. So here you will see guys, all the microservices registration details, here you will see. Okay, right now, any microservice ID is here? No, right? So that means by default, no microservice will register with the service registry. So what you have to do here it is, enable or add discovery functionality to microservice. So we have to add discoverable functionality to the microservice. For that, what we have to do is add a dependency of Eureka server or Eureka client. Server or client? Yes, client. So our microservices will become clients to the server, Eureka server. So add a dependency of Eureka client in each microservice. Okay, so let's go to the user microservice only first. So how to add it? One thing is you can Google it. You can find out that starter. You will get so this is what you can find out from these kind of places. You can copy paste there. Okay, this is what Spring Cloud starter, Netflix Eureka client, not server. This is one way, or you can directly add from here also. User service, right click, Spring, add status. Yeah. So what we have to add now? Discovery. So you are making now our user microservice as a discoverable client, Eureka discovery client. So this functionality also implemented by Netflix team only. So if you see here, if you added this functionality to your microservice, a REST-based service for locating services for the purpose of load balancing and failover, middle time servers, all these things, we will see that. So I just added Eureka discovery client. I can add this one also. Okay, so go to here. Yeah, select the pom.xml file, finish it. So what is this? This is the dependency being added now. So this is the dependency added right now as Spring Cloud Starter Netflix Eureka client. So where you have to add this dependency now? In another microservices also or no? Yes, we have to repeat same thing in the other microservices also. So first we will complete all the things with the user service and then we will go back. Okay, so see here now. Let me start my application one more time. Only service register is up and running now. Now I am just starting the user microservice one more time. Okay, if you see here, you are getting some runtime exceptions. Sorry guys. So if you can see so many places, Netflix. Okay, if you see here, what is the exception? Just try to understand why we are getting, we will try to observe. If you see here, a request execution error, endpoint default service URL, I don't know, let me stop it. Server application, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, in case try to understand default endpoint service URL, it is trying to look for this service. Okay, so it is trying to register with this. What's happening here? Okay, 3 instances I started, so I have to stop 3 also. Simple. The exceptions problem is all about this microservice is saying you added functionality of Eureka client, then where is Eureka server URL? So give me Eureka server URL and I'll try to add, I will go and register with the Eureka service registry. That is what kind of the errors you are getting. So I don't think problem for everyone, Kazal. Just take care of you. Okay. So anyone facing voice and okay screen synchronization problem. So you're seeing same voice, same at the same time of same screen. Online people, just respond. No, right? Yeah. Thanks, Kazal. Take care of it. Okay. So that is what the error, guys. Simple, very simple. And yesterday we added one dependency called as enable Eureka server inside the service registry application, right? To enable the Eureka server functionality, we added an annotation called as @enable Eureka server. Similarly, we have to add one more annotation as part of every client. So that means in every microservice, you have to do 2 things. One is adding the starter. Second point is adding an annotation with @Spring Boot application. And that annotation is @enable. I think Eureka client or Discovery client is there. Okay, so we have to add this annotation also along with the Spring Boot application. Go to the user microservice code. I mean that main method application. So here you have to add @enable I think Discovery client, not Eureka client. The annotation is Discovery client. Annotation to enable Discovery client implementation. So I'll okay. So add this dependency along with the Spring Boot. So these 2 things you have to do to make sure to make sure microservice is becoming as a discoverable client or microservice is going to register with the Eureka server. Now let's see here. Two things we have to do mandatorily. What it is? First is adding dependency. After that, adding an annotation at the Spring Boot application for every microservice. You have to repeat this. Okay, now are you getting any runtime exceptions? Yeah, we are getting. See here now again. The problem is still we have to add one more property called as where your Eureka server is running. No instances, right? So what you have to do is third point, add Eureka server URL inside application.properties. Add Eureka server URL inside the application.properties. Okay, go to user microservice and application.properties. Somewhere we have to give URL. I'll give you that property. Eureka server port not required. No, not this one. Yeah, say service URL only, but and this URL we have to provide always. Okay. So same thing. You just need to provide your Eureka server where it is running. Okay, on localhost 8761 Eureka. Generally, you given port number. We are not given anything for the Eureka, and it is taking 8080. But internally, the service registry functionality is completely running on 8761 port number. They dedicated this port number with respect to Eureka server. The reason is, if you given an option to sometimes, whenever we want to do some automation, okay, other people should follow some steps, okay, mandatorily as it is. Then only your automation will help us. I mean, then only the automation will work us. Similarly, here also, their intention is they are doing a lot of load balancing techniques based on the number of instances available and what it is. Gateway application. We are going to integrate gateway with the service registry. Gateway is going to communicate with service registry and then internally performing load balancing with respect to available instances, all these things. So in this overall scenarios, for every web application, the port number is the most important thing. Port number is the most important thing. So that's why to enable some kind of automation in between service registry versus gateway application, all these points of view, they hard coded or they given this fixed port internally as part of the Eureka server level. But when you want to access this kind of front end interface, all these things, what you can give, the port number what you given. So in this case, do I need to give 8761 or 8080? So what I have to give? So in this case, you have to give 8080 like that. Okay. But here you have to provide always 8761 internally. That's why people will use same port number as part of Eureka server application or properties level also. This one only they'll give. Okay, let me stop my application. So what are the steps we did as of now? So we have to add this property. 3 steps we have to follow for every microservice as of now. Add dependency, add annotation, add server, Eureka server URL in each microservice. Okay, fine. Okay, if you see first, again, Eureka server. Any instances? No instances, right? Let me start my Eureka user service now. So how many instances we are starting at a time? 3 instances we are starting at a time. Okay. What is the problem? Connection refused. It's all sometimes problem with the property names. If you forget small thing, that's all. I'll give you property name. Service URL. I think we given hyphen or what? I don't know. But you can give hyphen also. This is context path. We are not given any context path, no problem. Error, error on request get for sources. So sometimes if you don't have high-end config, I mean not high-end, at least the configuration of your computer, RAM or CPU, whatever you are using, lower configuration, I don't think you are able to practice microservices in your computer. Why? Generally Eclipse it will take a lot of RAM memory, and inside Eclipse you are running a lot of JVM processes because you are starting n number of microservices instances. So it will slow down your laptop. Okay. So whenever, okay. So probably anyone faces this issue? Your computer will get slow once you started 3, 4 microservices with 3 to 4 instances. Anyone faces this issue? No? That means you are not practiced. I don't know why this is not registering. I'll give you once. I'll do one thing. That we added. It's not problem that. Huh? I didn't get fan sound. Service registry. क्या करना है यहाँ पे? I mean, what we have to do? You say this one. No, I'll do. Yeah, that's not the issue. 8761 Eureka cannot get request. Connection refuse no. So these are the problems we'll get in project setup type. And the problem here it is sometimes when you are using latest Spring Boot versions, whatever being released in the last month or before last month, we don't know what are the changes happened also. And I think this is the problem. Okay, so it's resolved now. I think we have to add 8761 port mandatorily inside the application at properties. Where I added this properties file, this property in which properties file? In the service registry application itself. Service registry application level itself, I provided port number 8761. Okay, and I given same information as part of user microservice here. Okay, default zone 8761/Eureka you have to give. So that is what. Only thing is we added property server.port and I given 8761 directly inside the service registry. And same thing anyway we have to provide as part of the every microservice level. So this is the URL you have to add in every microservice. Okay, so what are the 3 steps you have to repeat? These are the 3 steps you have to repeat for every microservice. Okay, fine. We will do that for other microservices also. But observe here now, instances currently registered with Eureka, how many services available and how many instances available, see here. So application, what is this? User hyphen service. So what is this user hyphen service? Microservice service ID. That user microservice, we made it as a discovery client, right? So now when you started your user microservice, when you started deployment or whatever it is, how many instances we started at a time? 3 we started at a time. We can start 1, 2, 3, 10 also at a time. It's up to our choice. So we started how many? 3. So if you see here, that is what they are trying to say. User service is nothing but microservice ID. So for this microservice ID, for this microservice application is nothing but for this microservice ID, how many instances are up and running? 3 are running. What it is? User service on which port number? 8003. One more on 8002. One more on 8001. 8001. So if you see here, you are seeing something like 192, 168, all these things. What are all these things? IP addresses of whose IP addresses? Where your microservices started. So right now it is started in my computer only, right? So that's why it will show my, for example, assume microservice started on your computer and it connected to the Eureka server available somewhere else. You given that URL with host name and everything. Then it will display whose IP addresses? Your system IP address. It will display from where you are running your microservice. So if you see here, this is what IP address of the system. My current system IP address is same thing. So on this IP address, on this service ID, it is running how many instances? 3 instances it is running. Okay, leave it. We don't want to worry about it. Yeah, if you come here. So this is what I told you, whenever you started your microservice, it is going to start everything with it is going to service registry will fetch all the service details. What it will get the details from every microservice, service ID. Okay, right? Service ID means service name, microservice name, and how many instances it is running, what are the port numbers, what are the IP addresses, on which host it is running, every detail, it will be taken by the service registry application. Now, if I started order microservice, is it going to register automatically? No, right? So then we have to do same 3 steps repeated for every microservice. Okay, let me do that one also immediately. So add this dependency and then add this. Okay, first time you are adding cloud, so you should not do this. Or else you have to add one more property here. Spring.cloud.version. That is the thing, or you can do this one. Okay, right click on the order service. From here you can add, don't worry. Then it will take internal property also. How to know exactly which port is loading the user data or information. For that, you can enable the log level as debug, Sivaprasad. Then it will show the request is routing to which instance and everything. I'll try to show as much as possible. Then you just do with the log level as debug. Okay, so what we have to add now? Discovery client. So nothing. It is adding the dependency as well as it is adding a property also. First time Spring Cloud version. What is the cloud version we are taking? That property also being added. So that's why you just add from here only. I don't want to confuse you. Finish it. Okay, fine. Now we have to add this in Spring Boot application. Okay, add it and import it. Package also. So then add this to properties. Same thing can we do for the payment also. So this is all one-time work, guys. That's what I would like to say every time. Microservices architecture is all about you will do a couple of things, 90% of the things only one time. Service registry, how many times? we are going to create means only one time. Are we writing any business logic inside the service registry? No. Once this kind of setup is completed, Eureka server, service registry, and microservices as a discovery clients, then you will never ever touch the functionalities of microservices. You will always focus on the business logic implementation. Okay, you can add from here. Spring add status. Discovery client I want here also. Next. Select pom.xml. Finish it. So verify once it is getting added or not. Once maybe you may sometimes get confused. So then verify if this property is added or not once that step is completed. Now here enable discovery client. And here you have to add the property. Okay, so now let me start. Order versus payment also. See, I'm not adding discovery client right now to the gateway. We will discuss that very clearly in tomorrow's class. Okay, once we added discovery client functionality to gateway, how gateway is routing, then we will remove this configuration from the gateway. Once we added discovery client functionality to the gateway application, that means here, once we added discovery client functionality to the gateway application, then I will remove this configuration from the gateway application. We will remove this routing from here. But automatically internally, the request will route it to available instances which is having less load internally by applying load balancing, all these things. We will see that very clearly tomorrow session. But today we will try to set up only user order payment also as a discovery clients. And we can see what are the information it is capturing all this. Okay, see here now, order also I started or not? Yes. Payment also I started? Yes. Two instances I started. Two for order, two for payment. Gopi Raju, multiple port not coming on my laptop. What I have to do? So now it will come and I don't know what you are doing mistake. Okay, let me refresh the URL, localhost 8761. So if you see here now, how many microservices available now registered with the Eureka server? 3 we have or not? Order, payment, service, user service. So payment order is running on 2 instances, 8005, 8006. Payment running on 2 instances, 8010, 8011. So similarly, user is also running on 3 instances. So this is how you are making all your microservices running instances information available at one central place. One central place. Now the intention of here it is, now it's very easy when you are maintaining all the information in a centralized location with all the port numbers, whatever available. Like this, if you maintain in a centralized location, okay, guess now what we are going to do tomorrow. Here it is. You will make gateway application also as a discovery client. What we are going to do, gateway also as a discovery client. So that means whatever the 3 steps we did now, we will do same thing. Where we will do all these things? In gateway application tomorrow. Okay. And you will do one more extra property, something like providing extra privileges to the gateway to see all the informations of all microservices inside the service registry like that. But whatever it is, we will see. Once you made gateway also as a Eureka discovery client, then what will happen here it is, whenever generally what we will do, request from the client where it will go always gateway, 100% gateway. Gateway is the first contact, right? Yes. From the gateway now what it will do is the request, now immediately gateway will reach to the service registry. Yes. Now it is reaching by taking that request. It is reaching to the my service registry and it is asking, I got a request. Okay. So we will see that how to do that and all. So somehow it will ask, I got a request with respect to user hyphen service. I got a request with respect to user hyphen service. This microservice is registered or running or not. Like that, it will ask information to the service registry. That means it will verify inside the service registry with the service ID, any microservices running or not. Any microservices running? With the service ID, any microservice running? Yes, right? User service is there, right? Yes, it is running. So then what it will do is, yes, it is running. Then immediately it will identify how many instances are running. But how many instances running? 3 instances running. So 3 instances running. One is on 8001, one is on 8002. Assume, I'll ask you one more question also here. This first 8003 microservice instance, okay, I started from my computer, it is taking my IP address. Second instance, you started from your computer, okay, it is going to take your IP addresses. So that is why they are taking IP address. So you can start your instances from any computer. That means you can deploy your microservice from anywhere else and that will connect it to the service registry. Generally, this is all local host. In real-time applications, we'll maintain host names, nothing but our, what we can say, URLs. You will have right flipkart.com, all these things. Like that, we will have some private host names, unique host names. People will use AWS dot, silver dot, hyphen platinum. So something like that. They will segregate the things. They will use some internal host names, all these things. Okay, so they will take their different IP addresses and everything. But still, gateway will identify how many instances running on which port number, which host, okay, which IP address, all these things it will identify. Okay, 8003. With respect to different computers or different IP addresses, whatever it is. Now, it will identify, okay, total 3 is available, which is having less load of traffic, it will try to identify by applying a concept called as load balancing. So in this case, tomorrow, gateway is looking into this configuration once we are making all that. So gateway is worrying about this configuration now. If it is gateway is worrying about this configuration, then blindly request will always goes to the 8001 only. Then there is no use of service registry. Then there is no use of communicating with the service registry. Then what is the use? Communicating with the service registry. So right, to get the dynamic instances, for example, assume you stopped 8001. Sorry, here. You stopped 8001. I'll do that from here. 8001, 8000. Yeah, I'm stopping which one? 8001 instance of user microservice. But still it is running on how many instances? 2 instances, 8002 and 8003. Now, for example, if I did not add a gateway with the service registry concept, then it will reach to 8001. But actually 8001 is there. Now we stopped it. So there is no port. Then what you will get? Internal server error or timeout exceptions like that you are going to get. So that means your request routing is happening dynamically in previous approach. No, right? Now in this case, what will happen here? It is go to the service registry, refresh it. What happened? 1 down. And what are the information? See, generally it will take 1 or 2 minutes time internally to process the service ID. Okay, let's refresh it. So it is saying which one is down? 8001. After 1-2 minutes, even you will not see this IP address, this port number also in this interface level. But okay, after 2-3 minutes, even if this will be disappeared. Then how many is available right now? 2. Now a request came again. Then how many instances available? Now one more request came. This time how many instances available? 2 available. Then it will apply load balancing on these 2 instances. Then what gateway will, how many instances gateway will get this time? When a request came for the user service, how many instances? 2 instances. What it is? 8002, 8003. Then it will apply load balancing concept and it will identify 8002 is busy or 8003 is busy, which is not busy. That request will be routed to that 8003. So in this case, your request execution is going to fail. in this case, but in previous case, if you are not made relationship between service registry and gateway, gateway is manually depending on always the hardcore, the fixed value is 8,000, but 8,001 is not available. Only 8,002, 8,003 is available. Still your service will pay. But in this case, everything is dynamic. Service register is always reaching to the, when request reaches to the gateway always looking inside the service registry. What are the dynamic instances available? What are the port numbers available? And whatever available in the up status, health status is up, then what it is doing? Identifying which service, which instance is having less traffic, less load, then the request is finally routed to that instance. So these are all things I will show you practically tomorrow. Really, the request is sharing 1,002, second request is reaching to the 8,003 or not. We will see all these things practically in tomorrow's session. That down one got disappeared or not. So now how many is available? 2 only available. Now you sent a request again for the /user/register with this current architecture. Your request execution is going to fail. No, because still 2 instances are available. It's not depending. So in this overall configuration point of view, what is the thing we achieve? Tell me. Now, whatever the concept I explained right now from last 5-10 minutes, in this overall concept, we are eliminated one small, or not one small, it's a big one only. We are eliminated one kind of dependency. What it is? Port number dependencies. Port number dependencies. So for example, assume this is a dependency of port number or not. For example, assume you configured, okay, like 8003, 8005, 8002 in manual level. Tomorrow, after 1 month, I came and I told you like, why you given 8001, can you change it to 9001? Then what will happen? So if you given here again 9001 or something, then 8001 is available into the picture. Then what you have to do, you have to do the changes in the manual configuration or also not. Now, but if I integrated Eureka server with the gateway, then here in this place of 8001, what you will see? 9001. So dynamically it will get today 9001, 8002, 8003. And out of these 3, which is having less load, it will identify, it will route the request to respective instance level. So what we eliminated in this process? Dependency of fixed port numbers. Dependency of the fixed port numbers configuration inside the gateway application. So gateway is dynamically always getting information from the service registry and dynamically passing request to the available instance which is having less load when you are maintaining your microservice with multiple instances. This is all about the microservices architecture. Generally in every project will follow, guys. Okay, so before closing the session, so what is this? Load balancer, Spring Cloud load balancer. So this is by default part of service registry. So that means internally, once gateway reaches to the service registry, 3 instances available, then it will tell which instance is having less load by applying this load balancer. So that the starter is available load balancer. That means by default, Spring service registry is maintaining default load balancing or not. Jar file is available. Tomorrow we will see practically also. The request really routed to 8001, sometimes 8002, sometimes 8003, dynamically, automatically happening or not. When we are stopping one instance also, it is choosing only the available 2 instances or not. We will do all those experiments in tomorrow's session. So why I have shown this jar file here? It is by default. So this is which application? Service registry. So by default, internally, Spring Boot service registry contains default load balancing or not? Yes, there is. It's available. That's why I shown you the jar file. And tomorrow we will see practically the requests are routed or not. Once we are making gateway also as a discovery clients. So what you have to do by tomorrow here it is please make sure your microservices also has a discovery clients, and you can see all the information like this in your Eureka server also. Please achieve until this point. So that's what I used to say. It's not at all programming. It's all about configuration. Microservices is all about configuration. You are doing from last 1 week only configurations. Give this URL, give that URL, give this dependency, give that dependency, add the dependency. This is all comes under the what concept? Configuration, not programming, right? Programming means writing the logic, if conditions, for loops, all these things. So microservices is all about a concept of configurations, how we are dealing, how we are managing all microservices as a single application point of view. You will have a lot of other concepts also. So it is little bit difficult only because lot of configurations are involving. But if you are doing practice 4 to 5 times in your free times, so it will become at least, you will understand 50 to 60% what is happening. You can explain in interviews also. Hey, who is this person, man? Very simple. Go to your local here dashboard level. You will have an option. For example, like this. Duplicate config. Right click on that. By default, one configuration will be there. Whenever you created a Spring Boot application, by default, you will see one configuration there. Duplicate config, and whatever created newly, open that config, and here you have to give server.port. Server.port, what you given, like however you will give in the application or property, same thing you can give, then it will start with that port also. Apply and close it. Okay, so just until this step, please achieve. Okay, that's all for today. We'll connect on tomorrow.